Chisom sat under the large baobab tree near his school, staring at his textbooks. He had always been the brightest student in his class, and his teachers never failed to remind him of his potential. To him, education was the key to escaping the life of poverty he had always known in his village. He has heard stories of people from small villages like his who had gone to the university and transformed their lives. This was his dream, to get a scholarship and attend university in the city. The final exams were approaching, and he knew these exams would determine his future. But it wasn't just about passing the exams, it was about excelling. He had spent years preparing for this moment, studying late into the night by the dim light of a kerosene lamp. The weight of expectation from his family and community rested heavily on his shoulders, but didn't mind. This was his opportunity to prove himself, to rise above the hardships that had defined his childhood. The path ahead was clear, or so he thought. Little did he know that life had other plans for him. In the same school, Maria lived a life that could not be more different from Chisom's. While she was intelligent and capable, she didn't share his obsession with grades and academic success. For Maria, life was about living in the moment and finding joy in the simple things. She loved spending time with her friends, singing in the school choir, and helping her mother in the market on weekends. Unlike Chisom, she didn't dream of a university education in the city. Her heart was set on a simpler life. Maria believed happiness didn't come from education or material things, or material success. Indeed, she valued community, relationships, and inner peace. Her parents supported her view, encouraging her to pursue what made her happy rather than what society dictated as success. As the exams approached, Maria studied, but her heart wasn't in it. She often wondered why Chisom worked so hard when there was so much beauty in the world outside of textbooks. But soon, their lives would intertwine into unexpected ways, and their constructing beliefs will be put to test. One evening, as the sun began to set over the rolling hills in the village, Chisom walked home from school. He was deep in thought, reviewing formulas and equations in his mind, when he almost walked straight into Maria. She was sitting on a funny log by the roadside, humming a soft tune to herself, lost in her own world. Startled, Chisom apologized, embarrassed by his lack of attention. Maria laughed lightly. "You are always in your head, Chisom. Don't you ever take a break?" Chisom smiled shyly. "I have to stay focused. These exams mean everything to me." Maria shook her head. "Life is more than exams, you know. You drive yourself crazy." Despite their differences, something in the way Maria spoke intrigued Chisom. They had known each other for years, but they had never really talked, not like this. On a whim, he decided to sit next to her, something uncharacteristic for him. As they chatted, Chisom found himself opening up, something he rarely did. Maria had a way of making everything seem lighter, less serious. For the first time, Chisom wondered if there was more to life than school and his future plans. Then, unexpectedly, Maria pulled a letter from her bag. "I received this today. It's from my cousin in the city. She's inviting me to visit for a while." Chisom blinked in surprise. "You are leaving? But the exams are soon." Maria shrugged. "Maybe. I haven't decided yet, but the city sounds exciting, don't you think?" This was the first twist in Chisom's journey. The idea of Maria as someone so grounded in village life, living for the city, shook him. His thoughts about the future, success, and what really mattered began to blur. As Chisom walked home that evening, his mind was a whirlwind of confusion. Maria living for the city? She had always seemed so content in the village, uninterested in the things he dreamed of. Yet, the letter she showed him suggested something different. He had always seen her as someone who had no desire to escape the simple life of their community. Even if she was considering leaving, Did that mean there was something else he was missing? For the first time in years, doubt crept into Chisom's mind. All his life, he had believed that the only way to find happiness and success was through hard work, high grades, and getting that scholarship. But now, he couldn't shake the thought. Was there something more? Maria seemed so carefree, content in ways he had never been. Perhaps she understood something about life that he didn't. He shook his head, trying to push the thoughts away. The exams were too close for distractions. However, that night, as he sat down to study, he found himself unable to focus. His mind kept returning to Maria's words, the letter, and the possibilities beyond their small village. What if there was more to life than the plan he had so carefully laid out for himself? For the first time, Chisom wasn't sure if the scholarship and the future he had envisioned would bring him the happiness he sought. As sleep eluded him, he realized something crucial. He wasn't just questioning the meaning of success, he was starting to question everything he thought he wanted. The following morning, as Chisom entered the school grounds, he was greeted by the principal, Mr. Kambale. The older man had always taken a special interest in Chisom, often pushing him to aim higher and reach for opportunities that were rare in their part of the world. Chisom, can I have a word with you in my office? Mr. Campbell asked, gesturing towards the small building near the school gate. Confused but curious, Chisom followed in. Inside, Mr. Campbell sat him down and smiled warmly. I've been watching you closely, Chisom. You have a bright mind, and I believe you are destined for great things. That's why I wanted to tell you something before anyone else. Chisom leaned forward, his heart beating faster. Next week, there will be an opportunity for you, Mr. Campbell continued. A representative from the university in Lilongwe is coming to the school to interview students for full scholarships. I want you to be ready. You are one of the top candidates. The news hit Chisom with a lightning bolt. This was what he had dreamed of for years. The chance to secure his future at one of the country's best universities. But instead of the surge of joy, he expected a wave of uncertainty washed over him. The timing of this offer, so close to his conversation with Maria, felt almost like fate. With the offer on the table, Chisom realized that he now stood at a crossroads to chase the future he had always wanted or to explore the unexpected feelings that were beginning to take root inside him. Later that day, Chisom found Maria sitting under the same baobab tree, her favorite spot. She was staring off into the distance, lost in thought. He approached her cautiously, the weight of the scholarship offer still fresh on his mind. Maria, he began, have you decided? Are you going to the city? Maria looked up at him and smiled, but there was something different in her eyes. A quiet determination he hadn't seen before. I think I might, Chisom. My cousin says life in the city is different, full of opportunities I can't even imagine. It's not that I don't love it here, but I want to experience something new, something more. Chisom's heart sank a little. He hadn't realized how much her presence meant to him until now. But what about the exams? You are one of the best students. If you leave now, you might miss your chance to graduate. Maria shrugged. Exams aren't everything. You know that. I've been thinking about it a lot. My happiness doesn't depend on getting the best grades or going to university. I want to find my own path. Chisom frowned. He admired her confidence, but he couldn't understand it. But how do you know what you want without an education? How will you make a good life for yourself? Maria's eyes softened. That's just it, Chisom. A good life means different things to different people. For you, it's about success and achievement. For me, it's about freedom, love, and finding joy in the present. I do not need a grade to have those things. Our words echoed in Chisom's mind. Long after their conversation ended, as much as he wanted to argue, he couldn't help but wonder what if she was right. Was he chasing a future he truly wanted, or was he simply following the path that had been laid out for him? The next few days were a blur of activity as the school, with students preparing for the upcoming exams. But Chisom's mind wasn't on his studies. The conversation with Maria combined with the scholarship offer had stirred something deep within him. His heart and mind were at odds, battling over two vastly different versions of the future. One on hand, the scholarship represented everything he had worked for. It was his ticket to a better life, a way to lift his family out of poverty and fulfill the expectation everyone had for him. His parents, his teachers, and even his community were counting on him to succeed. But on the other hand, Maria's words had awakened a new perspective in him. For the first time in his life, he wondered if success was really the key to happiness. Maria seemed so sure that happiness wasn't tied to achievements, and the more Chisom thought about it, the more he questioned his own motivations. Was he pursuing his dreams for himself, or was he just trying to meet other people's expectations? Each evening, he sat with his books open, but his eyes wandered to the horizon where the sun set over the village. He thought about the city, the pressure, and the future that awaited him there. But he also thought about the peace Maria seemed to carry with her, the freedom she had in living her life without the weight of expectations. The conflict within him grew stronger with each passing day, and Chisom began to realize that no matter what path he chose, there would be sacrifices. The question was, what was he willing to give up in order to find true happiness? As the day of the scholarship interview approached, Chisom felt the pressure mounting. His teachers, parents, and even friends at school were constantly reminding him of how important this opportunity was. It wasn't just about him anymore. The hopes of the entire village seemed to rest on his shoulders. He could feel the expectations weighing him down, and it became harder to focus on his studies. Meanwhile, Maria became more distant. She spent less time at school, often skipping classes to help her mother in the market or wander through the nearby fields. Chisom noticed her absence keenly, and it only added to his confusion. How could someone so smart, so full of potential, not care about what everyone else seemed to value? Maria was walking away from everything he had spent his life working towards, and yet she seemed happier for it. On the day of the interview, Chisom's heart pounded in his chest as he entered the principal's office where the university representative waited. The questions were straightforward, and Chisom answered them flawlessly. He discussed his academic achievements, his vision for the future, and a commitment to making a difference in his community. On the surface, everything went perfectly. But as Chisom spoke, a quiet voice inside him whispered doubt. Would achieving this scholarship really make him happy? Would it bring him the fulfillment he had always imagined? Or was he just following a path because it was what everyone expected of him? After the interview, Chisom walked home in a daze. He didn't feel the excitement he had expected. Instead, he felt an emptiness, a gnawing sense that something was missing. He thought about Maria and the way she talked about happiness as something that couldn't be measured by success or wealth. Her words, once dismissed as naive, now made more sense than ever. The next day, Chisom received the news he had been awarded the scholarship. His family celebrated, his teachers beamed with pride, and the village elders came to congratulate him. It was everything he had ever worked for. Yet, as the celebrations continued around him, Chisom felt a growing sense of unease. He glanced at the horizon, thinking of Maria, and wondered if this was truly what he wanted. A few days later, Chisom found Maria near the market, her usual cheerful demeanor replaced by something more serious. She had made her decision. She was leaving for the city. Her cousin had secured her a job, and she felt it was time to explore life beyond the village. It was clear that she wasn't running towards something different, something she couldn't find here. Are you sure this is what you want? Chisom asked, his voice hesitant. Maria smiled softly. Yes, I am. I don't know what I'll find there, but I want to experience more. I need to see what life is like outside of this village. Chisom nodded. Though he felt a pang of sadness, I got the scholarship, he said, almost as an afterthought. Maria's face lit up. That's amazing, Chisom. You deserve it. You've worked so hard. But Chisom didn't feel proud or excited. Instead, he looked into Maria's eyes and saw something he envied, a sense of freedom. She was walking away from expectations and forging her own path. For the first time, he wondered if he was brave enough to do the same. As Maria prepared to leave, Chisom faced his own decision. Should he take the scholarship and follow the life he had planned for so long, or should he stay behind, embrace a simpler life, and pursue a different kind of happiness? His heart ached with the weight of the choice. Days turned into weeks, and Chisom watched Maria's bus leave the village, feeling a sense of loss that went beyond words. She had been the one person who made him question everything he thought he knew about success and happiness, and now she was gone, leaving him to grapple with those questions alone. Life in the village continued as usual, but something had shifted inside Chisom. He still attended school, still studied for the final exams, but the fire that had once driven him to succeed was dimming. He found himself drawn to the quieter moments, helping his father in the fields, sitting with his younger siblings in the evenings, and watching the sunset over the hills. This moment brought him a peace he hadn't felt in years. One evening, as Chisom sat under the baobab tree where he had once spoken with Maria, he received a letter. It was from her. She wrote about the city, its noise, its energy, its opportunities, but also about its loneliness. Despite the excitement of her new surroundings, Maria confessed that she had missed the simplicity of the village. She missed the sense of belonging, the feeling of being grounded in a place where people knew her name and her story. As Chisom read her words, something clicked inside him. He realized that the scholarship and university would open doors, but they wouldn't necessarily bring him the happiness he craved. Success, he understood now, was more than just academic achievement or financial stability. It was about finding peace within oneself, about creating a life that felt true. Chisom knew he couldn't abandon his education completely. He had worked too hard and come too far to give up on it entirely. But he also knew that this path didn't have to be the one everyone expected of him. He could go to the university, but he didn't have to leave behind the values and the community that had shaped him. When the time came to leave for university, Chisom made a decision. He would pursue his studies, but he would return to the village during holidays and breaks. He wanted to give back to his community, to help younger students who, like him, dreamed of something more, but he also wanted to stay connected to the place that grounded him. As Chisom boarded the bus to the city, he felt a mixture of excitement and calm. He was stepping into a new chapter of his life, but this time, he wasn't chasing success for the sake of success. He was pursuing a future that combined his love for learning with his love for his home. Maria's letter continued to arrive, and their friendship grew stronger despite the distance. She was finding her way in the city, exploring new opportunities, but she also talked about visiting the village again soon. They had both changed, but in ways that complemented each other. Chisom realized that his path and Maria's weren't so different at all. They were both searching for meaning in their lives, and they had found it in different places. At the university, Chisom excelled academically, but he never lost sight of his roots. He formed friendships with students from other villages, students who also grappled with the balance between ambition and home. Together, they shared their stories and dreams, inspiring each other to think about how they could use their education to make a difference, not just in their own lives, but in their communities as well. During his breaks, Chisom returned to the village just as he had promised himself. He started tutoring younger students, helping them prepare for exams and encouraging them to dream big, just as he had. But he also talked to them about finding balance, about the importance of staying true to themselves and their communities. Success, he told them, wasn't just about leaving the village, it was about lifting it up with you. Years passed and Chisom graduated from university. He could have taken a job in the city, could have built a life far from the village, but he chose to return home. With the knowledge and skills he had gained, he started an educational program in the village, helping other young students achieve their dreams while also staying connected to their roots. Maria, too, found her way back to the city, not permanently, but often enough to rekindle a connection with the place she had once called home. She and Chisom remained close, their bond deepened by the years they had spent exploring different paths, yet always finding their way back to each other. Together, they built something lasting, an understanding that success is not a one size fits all concept. For Chisom, it meant combining his love for education with his commitment to the community. For Maria, it meant living authentically, pursuing joy and meaning wherever she found it. In the end, they realized that the journey to happiness wasn't about choosing between ambition and simplicity, city or village. It was about finding harmony between all the parts of oneself and creating a life that felt true and that they both knew was the greatest success of all.